10 terrifying psychological disorders. Number 10. Wendigo psychosis. Named after the mythical man-eater of American and Canadian folklore, the Wendigo psychosis describes the intense craving to eat human flesh. This can take hold of the affected party even if other food sources are nearby, as was the case in one of the most famous early accounts. This was in 1878, when a man named Swift Runner and his family were starving in Alberta, just 25 miles from an outpost stocked with food and supplies. Despite this, Runner killed and ate his entire family, and was later convicted and executed as a cannibal. Debate has always followed this diagnosis, with many arguing it stems from a rudimental historical understanding of mental illness. Reports have waned as time goes on, but modern examples of inexplicable cannibalism seem to bear no other explanation. As with the 2012 Miami attack, where a man attempted to eat his friend's face. Here, an initial attribution to bath salts was later dispelled by toxicology reports. Number 9. Alice in Wonderland syndrome. Named after a story involving teleporting cats and rabbits with the concept of time, Alice in Wonderland syndrome was never going to be good. But it actually refers to a disturbing neuropsychological condition that creates the sensation that items around the sufferer are bigger or smaller than they actually are. Now you see, don't you? The condition disrupts perception but isn't limited to vision. It can also affect touch, hearing and other senses, sometimes making the afflicted feel like they are the one growing or shrinking. This can last a few minutes and even hours with some chronic sufferers. They're frequently accompanied by migraines and are commonly treated the same way as them. But there's no official treatment because no one is clear on the actual cause. They can also be brought about by brain tumours, the EPV virus, drug use and sleep loss. The terrifying experience is most common in children, but luckily most sufferers tend to grow out of it. Number 8. Dissociative identity disorder. Dissociative identity disorder, more commonly known as multiple personality disorder, is one of the most overused and misrepresented mental illnesses in film and television. The real condition typically stems from early childhood abuse or trauma, and is thought to be a coping mechanism to protect the mind from harmful memories. According to mental health support site Healthy Place, this results in an average of 8 to 13 personalities or alters, which allow the person to disassociate from the person who experienced the trauma. These alters can have different postures, memories, ages and even genders, but are statistically no more likely to be dangerous than any other person, unlike what the media has implied. These alters can switch at any point, and someone can remain in one personality for hours or years, making it extremely difficult for sufferers to lead normal lives. Because the root cause of the dissociation can usually be traced, the disorder can typically be treated, although not cured, by therapy. Number 7. Chronic déjà vu. According to the book The Déjà Vu Experience, over 2/3 of the population have experienced déjà vu, but there's no leading theory more convincing than a glitch in the matrix for why it happens. This makes treatment extremely difficult for the handful of people who live with chronic déjà vu. So rare that it's only been studied in individual case studies, the phenomenon sees people trapped in what's been described as a time loop of recalling something, then recalling the sensation of having done so before. It has accompanied degenerative disorders and brain tumours, but has also cropped up in seemingly perfectly healthy individuals. That was the case for one British man documented in the Journal of Medical Case Reports in 2014, who experienced bouts of déjà vu varying from minutes to hours for 8 years. He ultimately couldn't watch TV or read newspapers for fear he would be overwhelmed with the sense he'd seen each story before. Number 6. Factitious disorder. As opposed to hypochondriacs, people with factitious disorder, previously Munchausen's, know they aren't actually ill, but will go to lengths to convince you that they are. This can range from minor cases of lying to friends and medical professionals, all the way to those who intentionally inflict harm on themselves or tamper with medical tests. Sufferers inexplicably crave medical attention, and in rare cases go so far to attain this that they ultimately kill themselves. As well as the risk to those afflicted by the disorder, it can also manifest externally. In these cases, people, typically caregivers like mothers, will lie about the illness of others like children. Similarly, this can go as far as the subject inflicting harm on others so that they'll receive medical care. Given the misleading nature of the condition and the fact that no one knows its cause, it's extremely difficult to diagnose, significantly increasing the risk to sufferers and those in their care. Number 5. Charles Bonnet syndrome. The process of going blind can be a scary experience as you try to acclimatise to your world changing around you. Strangely, what can make this process even more scary is starting to see things again. This is the case of those who experience Charles Bonnet syndrome, an affliction of hallucinations that affects people with deteriorating vision. The Macular Society found that these hallucinations affect up to half of all sufferers of macular degeneration. They can vary from small patterns to complex visualizations of people, places, and pets that the person remembers. These can last from minutes to hours and can be deeply unsettling. These hallucinations can distort familiar people or places into disturbing visions and often make the sufferer question their own sanity. Despite this, the syndrome is no reflection of mental health, but a natural response by the brain to counteract the effects of the subject's blindness. Number 4. Alien hand syndrome. Most of these conditions can leave the sufferer feeling unsafe, but typically they're in no actual danger. This isn't the case for victims of alien hand syndrome, who are in danger every day from something they can't escape, themselves. The condition takes control of a limb, most commonly the left hand, away from the owner and gives it a life of its own. The hand will act supposedly out of muscle memory, performing tasks without the intention and sometimes even the knowledge of its owner. This can vary from innocuous actions like unbuttoning a shirt to attacking and trying to strangle the sufferer. Alien hand syndrome has no one specific cause, and so there is no cure. It frequently accompanies degenerative brain conditions, but is most common after surgery to treat epilepsy, which can sever the connections between the brain's left and right hemispheres. Although how the hand develops a mind of its own is a mystery. Number 3. Capgras delusion. Capgras delusion, after French psychiatrist Joseph Capgras, is a rare mental disorder that typically affects sufferers of Alzheimer's, dementia, and schizophrenia, although no one can agree on the root cause. It's also known as imposter syndrome because it gives the subject the irrational belief that a person or people in their life have been replaced by an imposter. The explanation the subject gives for these imposters can vary from alien abduction to evil doctors. It's often benign and imposters aren't seen as hostile, but an Athens University study of 82 patients with Capgras delusion found that 50 had attacked someone as a result. Rarely, the as yet incurable syndrome has even resulted in homicides. This was the case for Blase Cott, who murdered his wife in 2009 after he started to believe that she was an imposter. But despite his plea of insanity, he was sentenced to life in prison in 2010. Number 2. Cotard syndrome. Based on the lack of comprehensive studies into Cotard syndrome, it's hard to know exactly how many are affected by the creepy affliction. But walking corpse syndrome has been documented as early as 1788, before the person it's named after was even born. It refers to the belief that you or parts of your body are dead. Some experience it several times within their life, while others are cured by therapy or after attending their own funeral. It was made famous by neurologist Jules Cotard in 1882. He treated a woman who was so convinced that she had no brain, nerves, chest, stomach, or intestines that she didn't think she required food and died of starvation. Since then, instances of Cotards have occurred sporadically to this day, although the underlying cause is yet to be determined. It's afflicted those with medical conditions and psychotic disorders alike, but is most commonly linked to bipolar, depression, and schizophrenia. Number 1. Apotemnophilia. Psychological conditions can affect a person's sense of identity in various ways, but one of the scariest is when someone experiences the intense belief that they should be disabled. Apotemnophilia is a neurological disorder associated with the brain's right parietal lobe that gives the afflicted exactly that. The disorder typically manifests in a strong desire to amputate a healthy limb, but also covers blindness, deafness, and other forms of disability. Usually, doctors are a little apprehensive to perform the kind of procedures that people with apotemnophilia want, which sometimes forces people to perform dangerous self-amputations. This was the case in 2006 when Jules Shuping poured drain cleaner into her own eyes out of a belief that she was destined to be blind. But strangely, after she did so, she lived a perfectly happy life as the blind woman she believed she was destined to be, as do most sufferers of apotemnophilia. That was 10 terrifying psychological disorders. Did we leave any out that you know about? Let us know in the comments down below. And if you like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you want another great video from All Time 10s, check out the one playing on screen right now.